I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and go through this. You and I can just chat, talk, and see where we're at. Unless you got something you want to talk about in particular. I know we had all kinds of ideas when we had breakfast, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody actually wrote anything down. So
Yeah, I'm gonna get my notebook out right now.
okay, you got to get some light. You're gonna get like a mole in that darkness, man.
Wait, you can see me?
Get some. Yeah, I can see you. You got your.
Oh, I thought you could see me.
There you go. Brighten up your life, Eddie.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm using my phone.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I guess I just use my computer.
Yeah, it works. What the heck? What works works. So did you remember, or did you get my email?
Uh, because of the webinar.
Yeah, yeah. Did you
Yeah.
forget and reminder got you on, or did you remember?
I remember.
Okay.
I remember. Yeah. Okay, have you ever heard of the Bigger Pockets podcast?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Bigger Pockets is one of my. It's like a business LinkedIn. I'm on there. I get a lot of requests for funding through that. They have a podcast.
Yes.
I
I
didn't
think
know
you should,
that.
I think you should be invited to it.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
all the different seminars and webinars and stuff that I go to. I've got a business training webinar that starts at noon today. So
Oh.
I'm pretty much once we get done here, I'm gonna do some chores around the place and then start back in on a. I don't know if it's a 3 hour or 3 days thing. I think it's three Saturdays, but it's it's pretty lengthy.
Got it, got it.
So I could look at my calendar and see. It'd be on my calendar. Oh yeah, it's an hour and a half webinar, so that's not so bad. But I think it's like 3 Saturdays in a row or something like that. Of course, I think most of them are pitches to get you to buy their programs. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to see how that turns out. Oh, excuse me. I was up late last night. Went out to dinner with. Actually, you remember? I think it was Pastor Greg who taught when you guys were there.
Yes.
Yeah, we went out to dinner with him and his wife last night.
That's nice.
So that was we had a really great time. We I think I'm going to end up having to get my tires for my motorcycle, and we're going to go do some motorcycling. We'll have to get you on two wheels.
Oh, I don't know about that. I never ran on a motorcycle.
Yeah, use a moped for a while, just get the feel of it. Then you'll get hooked on two wheels. Well, I'm gonna go through the slides real quick, and you can give me some feedback on them, as well as you can. This is kind of what I want to start out with. Kind of start out with the fundamentals, and fundamentals of business is even having your personal finance and your personal life in order. So the best thing is, this is the first of the year. Everybody talks about goal setting and everything, and I thought I might just do that each year. Is just start out with doing just the basics of goal setting. And Eric wanted to be in here, but he didn't show up. He was interested in time management as well, and this will kind of fall into some of that. And when you're going to school, you've got everything's kind of set out for you. You've got your schedule, But once you get out of school, other than a job, if you're running your own business, you got to be disciplined to take control of your time. Otherwise, it'll really get away from you. So, with the think things I'm going to cover just in just very high level on this, and then later on we'll go into deep detail is mission statements. These are kind of the basics: mission statements, values, rules, goals, projects, tasks, and routines. And these all become more solid as we go along. So with mission statement, the best example I think I talked to you about was The One Thing. It's a book that was written by Gary Keller, who was part of Keller Williams Realty. And finding that one thing that becomes your mission statement. And with values, the example I'm going to use for that is Benjamin Franklin had a book, had a list of values. Rules comes from my kind of gathered that this is a little bit different from all the other two, but it's kind of similar because you'll base your rules upon your values and upon your mission statement, but you may have other rules that you have that are more defined than rather than just a value. Um, I may, I'll see if I can figure out some examples of it. When we get into it, I will. I actually ran through this like 3 weeks ago, and then I haven't touched it since. So, so the rules, I got the ideas from the rules from NCIS, the TV series, where they have Gibbs as the main character, and he has Gibbs rules. These are the rules that Gibbs lives by, and I think that we all need rules that we need to live by. And goals, I'm going to kind of go with this is kind of the I have a website I think you know about called Vision Plan Execute. Goals is your vision, projects are your plan, and tasks are the execution. And then the routines are basically your time blocking, your time management piece. So those are the pieces we're going to go through and kind of dive into. And if you got questions, just holler at any point here. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the mission statement, like I said, this is going to be kind of high end. The mission statement is basically from I actually wrote my own. In fact, I was going to pull it up, but I probably should bring mine. Oh my
There's
goodness, Eric. Hey, Eric. Eric's joining us. So are you in with the audio? Let me see, make sure he's unmuted. Yeah. Now I see his microphone on. You hear me okay, Eric?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and unmute. And Eddie is one of the students from the Youth Entrepreneurs. He's in here now too. And I'm just kind of going through the slide deck that I'm going to be using to put together my next Financial Fridays thing. And so I'm looking for feedback. So I'll go back. We're only in slide 3. I'll go back real quick and do it so Eddie can see it again. Go back. Oh, there we go. So basically, I thought the start of the year is just about setting goals. So, and you and I had talked about some time management things. So this is something I put together like about 2-3 weeks ago. I ran through it as a test, and I'm just kind of refining it before I make the final recording. So what we're looking at is some basics. I'm going to go through mission statements, values, rules, goals, projects, tasks, and routines. And the examples that I've used for each that have helped me in my life is that the one thing for mission statements, for values, I use Benjamin Franklin's values. For rules, I use Gibbs rules. For goals, I use the idea of vision, plan, execute. And then routines is basically time blocking. So I'm going to run through this quickly, but stop and ask questions if you want, and insert any suggestions or comments as you wish. So anyway, the biggest thing that I was able to achieve, I felt for me, was going through this book a couple years back called The One Thing, where I was actually able to go through the book, and there's a workbook that goes with it, helps determine your mission statement. And I've had people talk all the time about doing mission statements and everything. This is the only book I've ever gone through that actually takes me to that point where I actually got it done. And I'm surprised to find out the people that I've told that, yeah, I've actually written a mission statement based upon this book. They say they're just surprised that someone's actually taken the time. They've always heard they should do it, but they've never actually done it. And this is something that we can, each one of these subjects, by the way, we can dive into on another time or even afterwards in the Q&A. So we can go back through it. Benjamin Franklin, for values, Benjamin Franklin came up in 1726 at age 20 of all things. So see, Eddie, Eric, it might not be too late for you either, but Eddie, he's still got time here. So he created this system to develop his character. And it's actually listed, his 13 values are listed as autobiography. This kind of gives you an example. This is kind of the format he used for it. And these were his values. And I'm going to give this slide deck out so you can put together your own list of them as well. I really encourage people to do this. I like his, and there's other values out there. There's a website that you can actually go through and do your mission statement and values, and have those in the resources at the end as well. And then Gibbs rules. Gibbs had a set of rules that he had. Give you an example: never go anywhere without a knife. When the job's done, walk away. Never be unreachable. Don't waste. There's actually Rule 39 is one of the ones I like. There's no such thing as coincidence. I think there's a whole list of them. Someone's actually gone out and listed all the ones from all the different episodes and actually told you which episode that those particular rules were listed in. And I think there's close to 100, but I could be wrong on that number. Maybe 70 or 80, but there's some missing in between. I think there's like Rule 114. But I believe it's good for everybody to kind of do a rules list for themselves. This is how your day-to-day actions, you kind of make your mission statement and values, and this is how you refine your actual actions during your day-to-day activities to match up with your mission statement and your values. Example of some Nexus goals. Example of some financial goals you can consider. There's other goals as well. Saving for retirement, everybody talks about that. Increasing your investments, increasing your financial IQ is basically my goal every year is doing that, diving more deep into that. And I know, Eddie, because you're showing up here and you show up at our other stuff that we have going on, I know you have a hunger for increasing your financial IQ as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never ending either. Eric is one of the biggest financial guys I know, and I know we're always talking and learning from each other because he has a wealth of information from one side, and I've got mine comes from a whole different area of real estate investing, and his from real estate financing and business financing. More ideas of goals is just, have a well-stocked emergency fund, plan to do the work that you love, just those kind of things. It's good to have them, and they need to be written down. There's basics of goal setting, and most people know it. There's an acronym called SMART. And I'll have to bring it up. I've got it at the end here if you want to take a look at it. But it's goals should be SMART, and there's different requirements for a goal to actually be a good goal that you'll actually accomplish. Routine. I have this. I read this book. Trying to remember the guy's name now. It's gone blank on me. It's called The Miracle Morning, and I've kind of tweaked his a little bit, but he's got what he calls life pavers, and life pavers is peace. He starts the day out with he says solitude, or he does meditation. I actually do it with, he calls his savers, I call mine pavers, because I start mine out with prayer. I start my first part of the morning out with God and in solitude and in directing my morning. The next is affirmations. I read affirmations to myself to put my mind where it needs to be, that a lot of times we don't have encouragement in our own life from the people around us, so we need to do it ourselves a lot. and it's a good practice. I'm gonna do a whole thing on life pavers later, so I'll go drill into these much deeper later. Next one is visualization. These are things such as vision boards and visualizing, where your goals are, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish in life. In order to do visualization, you have to have your goals first. Exercise. Exercise is important for keeping good health and getting your energy. You actually sleep better and you're more alert, more driven through the day as you do exercise. Reading. Reading is another key component of increasing your financial IQ, but also increasing your mind, and being well-read in a variety of subjects is really good. When I do my reading, I focus on self-development. Hold on a sec here. I focus on self-development. I'm going to mute you guys. Someone's rustling around in there, so it makes it easier. I think it's Eddie. But use the chat box if you want to, make a comment. So anyway, reading, I read something that's going to be nonfiction, self-improvement in the morning, and then the evening I actually listen to audiobooks, and I listen to science fiction. I have a whole series of science fiction stuff that I read that is, to me, it's just hilarious. So because the guy's got a sense of humor, and the guy that's reading it has got several voices he does, and it's quite interesting. But oops, someone else is showing up. There's Wendy. Hold on a sec. So Wendy, welcome, Wendy. Can you hear me? Hold on a sec. I'm going to unmute everybody, see if Wendy's there.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to wait till I hear from Wendy so that I know she can hear before I go on. I see her. I see she's got her camera on but not doing anything, but I don't know how that works. Or maybe it's not. So Wendy? Earth to Wendy. Now I have a question for you guys while we're waiting for Wendy to come in. Is 8 o'clock too early for you guys?
Not.
I think Wendy's just taking a while to get connected here. I'm seeing changes in her connection status. So bear with me too. I'm testing out this software. When we get to 3 or more participants, it only allows this thing to go for 40 minutes. So we may have to hop on to another platform or something for the rest of it. So I don't know if it's when the 4th person hops in or whatever. So I'm testing the software. So this is being recorded, so Wendy can come back and listen to it again. I'll go through oops, hold on a sec. Let me select this. And the last item is scribing. Scribing is basically journaling and recording what happens. I also like to do logging. So I'll do a journal of what happened the day before, kind of an overview. But during the day when I'm doing business items, I'll actually make a log of who I talked to, what time I talked to them. If I make a purchase of something online, I make a note of that. I copy and paste the confirmation of the purchase into my log, and I'll show you my log file at another time too when we get into it, going through there she is.
There, I got it.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
So, this is being recorded, so you can go back and listen to the first part of it too. So, this is the rough draft for my kickoff of goals and goal setting and the whole ball of it. So we're just now getting to the routine part, which is basically talking about life pavers. And the last item on it was scribing, which is journaling, and then logging, which is recording your day, your business day. These skills will be, if you do go to college, these skills will be useful for you in a lot of different ways, but in business, it's real important to keep track of who you talk to, when you talk to them, what was said. And the big thing, I think, is keeping track of action items, what takeaways you do. So And Eddie's wandering around there again, so I'm going to mute.
Yeah.
He's getting something to drink. So, all righty. I'll unmute him then if he's done with his that doing. That's Life Pavers. Time blocking is basically my first part of, oh, by the way, Life Pavers takes me 15 minutes. Let me go back a slide here. Life Pavers takes me 15 minutes per item. So my prayer time's 15 minutes. My affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing is 15 minutes. So in an hour and a half, I've gotten done more than most people do, in the day. And then immediately after my Life Pavers section of my day, I spend some, I shower, I get into my task planning. So I will actually go in and take a look at the things I have to do, and I'll plan out my day according to my, goals, values, and rules. And then I take the next part of that is I actually have time blocks I preset up on my calendar. And these are areas of my calendar that I've said I'm going to work on something for an hour during these periods. And so I fill these in as the week goes on. I have some outstanding meetings. You can see I've got things color coded. So I've got, I have a weekly meeting with one of my customers. I do an update and virus check of all my systems on Wednesdays as well. And Melina and I had we have an on-site meeting once a month at her business. And you can see that meeting there. That kind of supersedes the time blocks that I've got, so that I can go in there and actually, what I'll do is I'll actually go into those blocks and I'll add the different tasks that I need to do, or the other projects I need to focus on to get those items done during that time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the resources I've got. And first is the One Thing with Gary Keller and Jay Paciana. They've got some videos too that are really good, but remember, The One Thing is is a book that'll help you develop your mission statement. No yawning, Eddie. I saw that. That's the problem when you got video, right? So I highly recommend that you take the time to read that book and go through it. As you go through it, if you've got any questions or you want to go through and review it, I love the book. It's really, he really kind of breaks it down. He really found out that most people cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. He'll give, he's got Gary Keller is the Keller of Keller Williams. They've got the largest real estate company in the world. They're all over the globe. And he finds when he counsels and coaches his people that he says, well, let's try to get these three things done by next week. Well, they'll get one thing done. They just won't get all three of them done. He says, if we can get people to focus on one thing, then they get it done every single time, but if you try to give people too much to work on, they get lost. And that's another reason why I like time blocking, because it gives your focus right on the items that you need to get done during that time period, and you can actually knock things out. The next link is, you'll get this in the slide deck, because this is Franklin Covey. Franklin Covey is from the Covey Planner. Actually, it's the Franklin Planner, and then they merged with the Stephen Covey of what was it? The 7 something. I can't remember now. I'm drawing a blank. But they have what they call a mission statement builder. That's what the MSB stands for. And that's where you can go in and it'll help you build a mission statement. It's helpful to have and go through, but I didn't find it as helpful as the One Thing. But I think combined, the mission statement builder will actually help you generate ideas and think about what your mission is, where the One Thing helps you really define it down to the last straw, basically. Benjamin Franklin's values. We had those earlier in the slide deck. You can Google those, or you can actually, when you get the slide deck or watch this video, you can go through it then. And Gibbs rules. I think Gibbs rules is one of the funnier things that I've ever seen and heard of, but his aren't all that I would buy into, but it gives you thinking about rules that you would have for your life. So for instance, when I was, when working anywhere, never work with someone of the opposite sex in a closed room. It's just, it's a rule it's just a good rule to have. And for an example, all the people that are in trouble now in politics in Hollywood, all the celebrities with the Me Too thing that's going on, that just proves it for both men and women not to be in those types of situations. So that's a rule, That's just one of the rules you want to put together, one of the rules you can put together. I like the one of my rules that he has. He says to have a pocket knife. One of the things I try to carry in my bag all the time is not only a knife but a flashlight. I find those are all useful. So I can't carry it on the airport, but I have to remember to clean that out before I head to the airport. The flashlight's fine, the pocket knife's not, but it's always a useful thing to have. So that's pretty much it. Open for Q&A, conversations, whatever you guys want to talk about. This is my first go at this, and what I plan on doing is taking this and going into each one of those items with a deep dive. So just to kind of as a review, let's see if I can get this here without messing this up too much. So there's just kind of a review of all the items we covered. So any questions?
Yes. So is there ever a time where you don't go to sleep like early, you have to go to sleep like late, and then you don't have time in the morning to do all those things?
Yes, actually, it happens. It depends on why you're doing it, I really think. In fact, actually, I've had conversations with 3 different people this week who all say they're not getting things done, and their days are all in a whack because they're up all night long and then can't get up in the next morning. And I think a lot of it is just finding your routine, setting it, and sticking to it. It's a lot of discipline. But to give you an example, last night I went out to dinner with one of the pastors and his wife. I was telling Eddie about this, and we didn't even get done till like about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So by the time I actually got home and wound down, and I always like to relax before I go to bed, and I think it was about 9 o'clock before I went to bed, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock or something. So I actually ended up sleeping in till 4 o'clock. I woke up at 4 a.m. because my body clock was set that way. When you start getting in a routine, and a lot of it has to do with exercise. If you get in the habit of exercising, when it comes time to go to sleep, you'll sleep better. So when you get in the routine and you're getting up constantly every day, I've been getting up at between 2:45 and 3 o'clock since 2002. And so when I sleep in on a weekend, if I do, I sleep in till 4 because my body clock wakes me up. If I start staying up later too often, then it messes up my clock and I'm up late. I can't get to sleep. I get insomnia. And I had that happen just early January. Some things got out of whack, and I had to go back to, look, I'm going to bed at 7. I'm waking up at 3. No matter what, I'm going to not ignore my alarm. Once you start doing that, it becomes your body clock becomes its routine, and it doesn't even. I only got like 5 hours sleep last night. I feel fine, just because I got my REM sleep that I actually needed because my body was used to sleeping during that time.
Mm.
Wow.
How long does it take for your body to adjust to that time?
Interesting you should say that. I was studying, and I think some of you know this, I was studying what they call biphasic and polyphasic sleep patterns. And it really piqued my interest because back in, I think it was, trying to remember when it was. I think it was like back in '88. I was actually working for a police department as a clerk dispatcher, and I had the graveyard shift, so I worked the graveyard shift all the time. So there wasn't a lot of change in seniority. There was no change in my shift. It took me a while to get used to it, but the police officer every 3 months would change shifts. Well, they came out with a study, and we were reading it on in one of the police magazines about shift changes. It takes about 3 months for your body to get used to a shift change, and by that time, you're doing another shift change. You know, your body gets used to that time frame, and then you're changing it again. And they were kind of talking about at the time, I don't know if they ever did it, but not having the shift changes unless you were actually being promoted to a place, you know, where you needed to change your time. They were doing it because, you know, not everybody wanted to work the graveyard shift. Other people wanted the daytime shift, and so they kept it so that everybody had the opportunity. Every quarter they'd change shifts, and it was you know, dragging every time you went through the shift change, it was just dragging people down, you know, because it was just so tough on them. I loved your graveyard shift because I was able to work at night, get all kinds of stuff done. No supervisors were in the office. And then during the daytime, if I had anything to do, all the stores were open, all the shops were open, anything I had to do, I didn't have to worry about trying to get there. So it worked out fine for me. But yeah, it does take your body. I would plan on at least 30 days. Actually, I think there's a video that talks about it, but Gary Keller in the one thing, they actually have planning pieces in there about selecting the one thing you're going to change in your life. And he says they say 60 days, 66 days or something like that. So I've heard everything from 27 to 90 for changes in your life for things to become habits, I guess is the best thing. I think actually Alan's reading a book on habits, and I came across a new one too the other day. I just bought it. I keep buying books and putting, you know, electronic books and putting them in my library, and I need to finish reading them. But there was one that was really good on habits. I think Eric might remember. He and I were talking about it. So.
Who's Eric? Oh, is that is he on the video too?
Yeah, he doesn't have his video running, and he's got his mic muted. He's hiding out. He's on the West Coast, so he's probably really sleepy, tired looking.
No, I'm not. I'm here, guys. Look, I don't have a video camera anymore because I gave it away to somebody. I'll get another one. I think one of the points that's interesting, John, and by the way, we're throwing stuff in the chat you're probably not seeing, so you should be able to. You should see that because we've been typing a couple things to you.
Cool. All right. Yep, I got it. Sorry about that. Thanks, guys. Like I'm learning the software here.
Yeah, I can share something that's very fascinating on my end. You know, I've been working on goal setting with you for quite a long time, John. And the one thing that I noticed that's recently modified in my world is the fact that I have a new motivation. And the motivation has created a gravity that's allowed me to accomplish my routine. Without this motivation, though, I've been failing, and you've been watching me fail for years. So I must say, you know, it's like the motivation is what's going to help you create and accomplish your daily routine or your goals. Without that, I almost feel like we're just, you know, it's worthless to even try.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you know, by the way, Eric, is my strategic business partner. He and I have known each other for over 5 years before I left Vancouver to come down here to Texas. So he does commercial lending, and he's been the one giving me the education in that. And to Eric's point, I think there's one thing you'll hear a lot. In fact, actually, when you see presenters, when you go to real estate events or financial events, with these big presenters, a lot of times when they're pitching you something, they're going to try to get you to dream and vision so that they can show you how to make money or whatever. But they always talk about your why. You're going to hear that quite a bit. In what Eric was suggesting is he's got a why now that he's focusing on. And it's basically a lot of that is that your why is, you'll find your why, I believe, by reading through the one thing about building your mission statement. When you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's more of a drive, it's more of a motivation, it's more of a prodding to get those types of things done, the things you need to do and focus and get the discipline in. Because otherwise you're just like a boat on the water without a sail up, going in no direction. Does that answer your question, Wendy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I like Wendy. She's always got lots of questions. She keeps me on my toes. I just heard a ding like someone else is joining us, or someone left. One of the two. I don't think.
No.
So, all right. So yeah, what I'm thinking is that on each one of these, I mean, I can spend a whole presentation time on just mission statements, each one of these, and do a deep dive into them, especially like routines. The pavers is definitely a subject that could take a video series, or meeting, Saturday meeting with time blocking is a whole nother thing we can do. If any one of these you feel, or maybe all of them, maybe we just need to start at the top with your mission, your mission statement, go through some of the key points of the one thing, and some of it comes with a workbook, which is one of the nice things about it. You're not only reading it, but you're doing the workbook, kind of like you guys are reading. I know Wendy and Alan, and I don't know if you are, Eddie, are you reading, now I forgot the name of the book.
Booking Yourself Solid? Booking
Yourself Solid, thank you. With Michael Post.
Mm-hmm.
You reading that one too, Eddie? Yeah. And he's got, I like the way he did it. He's got little segments he does, and then there's running out of time.
It no longer has a time limit?
Yeah, it's because we got so many people in here. I've got another one that I can try to use, another thing that I don't think it has all the video, but Zoom is kind of nice. Has a nicer presentation on some things, and I'm going to look into other webinar software. So anyway, it's giving us an extension. That might have been the thing I heard earlier. It only does 40 minutes on the free version. Otherwise, it's like $114 a month, and I don't know if Eric's worth it. No. Anyway, so we'll see where this goes, and I'll look at different platforms. I've got another video. I have another presentation platform, but it doesn't have the interaction, I think, with the video that Zoom has. So I kind of like that. So anyway, we can really dive into that in the workbook and all. But Gary, Book Yourself Solid, the way he does it is really nice, because he goes through a section and he has a workbook section. He goes, okay, now go to your workbook and do the work in it, so that you're drilling that into your mind. And actually, I don't know that I've got it, but there's a thing called the cone of learning. Some of you have heard me talk about it. And when you're actually doing something, you're more likely to retain it 2 weeks later. They did this actual study on it. So that's something else I can show as the cone of learning. So any feedback, ideas, thoughts?
Eric said that we could use Join Me in the chat.
I'm sorry?
We could use Join Me.
Oh, Join Me. Okay, I see it.
Yeah.
I see the chat. Yeah. I'll have to try that one out. Then there's actually some webinar ones that have full registration, participation. You can do voting, polls. You can do, it records the chat, and it has a Q&A. So you can do chat, but if you ask a question, you can actually say, this is a question. So the moderator, that doesn't sound right.
The mod?
Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
My-
So anyway,
Moderator.
Thank you, Eric. I get tongue tied sometimes. Can actually make sure that he, as you answer the questions, you just tick them off so you know that they got done. And plus, the whole thing is recorded for later playback, so anybody that misses can go through. So, good idea. Okay, we'll have to try some of these out and see which one works the best. Have you used Join Me a lot in the past, Eric?
Yeah, I've used Join.me quite a bit. It's really easy to use, and everybody gets a quick code. So I use it for like my stock trading and stuff, because I can position a screen and I can send it out to like 20 different people and they can hear me talking. It's just like what we're representing here.
Okay.
It's just a little bit longer and it's easier to use and pretty much free.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My other one I know is I've been on conference calls that have lasted 5 hours, so I know it's not a problem. It has a limit of 15 people. But I don't think it has the video except for on my side. I think I can do video to you guys, but I don't think everybody else's video can go in there. But definitely has the collaboration with chat, and it's definitely the audio portion. So we'll give both of those a try.
I'll get a camera next time so y'all can see me. Quick question though, the book that you're suggesting that you guys are going through, does it allow you to outline your motivation, what you're trying to accomplish? Because I think like if you don't have that, and I know we've been through some of these things, if you don't have that, then it won't gravitate or drive you towards accomplishing the goals that you want. I mean, these goals are all derived from your goal,
Right.
And it's like, whatever that motivation is, it has to be stronger than whatever your current motivation is, or you'll never achieve it.
Well, what I like about this book, I pulled it up on the slide here. This is the one thing. It has you focus on getting one thing done. That's cool. But what it does when you're going through the exercises, you kind of it kind of gives you the big picture of everything, and then has you narrow it down to the one thing that is your mission statement. And then that becomes your why. And then from then you can make all your decisions on everything else that comes your way. So to answer your question, yes, it does, but it does it kind of knowing that everybody's looking at this big ball of everything that's flying around them at the same time, and narrowing it down to why are you doing what you're doing, and why do you want to do this? And then if what you're doing on the outside doesn't match up with that, then it allows you to eliminate the crap you don't need. So I thought it was real useful. So taking a look at that mission statement on a regular basis, even daily basis, then at least to begin with, helps you decide when an email comes in or a request to go do something, or someone says, I need you to do something, if it matches a task. Give you an example. Years ago when I was doing a lot of stuff for the church in Portland, I was almost like the assistant pastor's right-hand man, basically. I was doing everything I could for him. And after several months, I started to get really burnt out. And I actually ended up not going to church for three months before someone even said, what's going on? And when I met and sat down with a guy, friend of mine, he said to me, the Bible says you can do all things through God who strengthens you. He says, John, even though God can allow you to do all things, you're not meant to do all things. It's okay to say no. He says some things you're not meant to do, but the things you're meant to do, you can get them all done, but you're not meant to do everything. It's okay to say no. And I hadn't had that in my life before. So I always says, yeah, I can keep going. And I burnt out. And knowing what that one thing is, like right now, I know. At the time I was going through Bible college, learning to be a pastor at the same time, teaching and starting a business teaching computers at the college and starting a business. And it was at that point in time that shortly thereafter, I heard about Kings and Priests, where the priests bring the vision and the kings bring the provision. And I decided that's me. I says, I'm the one that's going to go out I'm going to one that's going to make the money, and then bring the money to the need of the people that are there, and then help further define. Like this book will help you do. It'll help you define what things you don't fall in line with what your mission statement is. If it doesn't fall in with my mission statement to make money for the ministry, then it's not worth my time, effort, or dealings. It just doesn't fit my pattern and the things that I need to do in my strength. I need to work in my strengths. So there's another guy. I've got a video series of his. It's called Trombone Player Wanted, and it's a 6 DVD set. It's 15 minutes a piece, and it's probably the most eye-opening, soul-searching video that you'll see about seeing what you're strong in and not working on. Everybody says you need to work on your weaknesses. If you get A's in English, but C's and D's in math, everybody wants you to work on your math, to bring it back up or whatever. But what if in fact your strength, you should be working on your strengths. If you're really good in English and the languages, maybe you should be a writer. Maybe you should do, something like blogging or something, because you're really good in that. And that's where your strength is. And you could actually get further ahead by focusing on your strength. Marcus Buckingham is the one. He's got a video series called Trombone Player Wanted. I think there's some bootleg ones up on YouTube, but I've got the whole series, and we've actually used it in classes, both at work at the place I used to work at, and with the kind of a. It was actually an after church event that people stuck around later to watch it when I was doing the Portland church. So we did a Portland stream church. So, but Eric, it sounds like you've made some progress then. You get your why in line. It makes it takes stress out of your life. Is being able to say no is a big stress reliever. Now, unfortunately, for Wendy and Eddie, that there's some things they can't say no to because, hey, it's part of getting through school, getting through that part of it. You just can't do that. But
what are they trying to accomplish? Graduation.
Eddie's his senior year. Wendy's her junior year. Wendy's goal that she didn't make up, but because she's in our class, she has to come up with a product or service and then pitch it to win money in our competition. So she's you're still working, or have you figured out what you want to do on that one yet, Wendy?
We figured it out. I got a partner, so we already figured out what we want to do.
Okay. You gonna let us in on it, or?
So we thought about event planning, like instead of like bringing it to you, like catering, music, and all like decorations and stuff, bringing it to you, because sometimes you don't have time, and then you stress out with the parties and everything. You stress out and you don't have time, and sometimes the things that you want are like in different stores, and you're everywhere, and it's like time management type of stuff. And so we could like eventually make it into an app, but like right now start small, but like where you could just go and like order, like meet up with the person and they just bring everything to you, so like delivered to you, which makes it easier for them and more convenient.
So it's kind of like a wedding planner for parties.
Yeah. But like we wanted it for different types of parties too. Like right now, just start with like birthday parties, and then go up and then do other types of parties, and eventually weddings too and everything. Where we do it a lot, and eventually like if it goes big, we could hire people. So that's like making jobs for people too.
I had this conversation, I think, with Eric. And I've had it with I had it recently with the instructors. I'll have to dig it back up. I have notes from last year's competition when Eddie and Alan were in it. And not necessarily theirs, but a lot of the ones that kind of failed, and I shouldn't say failed, they weren't on the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Or the fact that there was two problems: they didn't think big enough, or they thought too big. And it sounds really strange to say, but a lot of them thought really big, but they didn't think about how they were going to get started. And a lot of people thought really small, but they didn't think about how they were going to grow it big. And the idea really with any business, in my opinion, and Eric's heard me hammer on this over and over again, is cash flow. It's more about cash flow. We talk about the cash flow quadrant. It's about moving from sole proprietorship, like a small business, to a larger business where you are you're allowing the business to make money for you rather than you working for it. Because in a sole proprietorship, if you get sick, then you can't do any parties. And Ed, I think you had a landscaping job, and if it was just you and you got sick, then lawns are mowed. But when you build a bigger business where you don't even need to be there, your business is still making money regardless if you're there or not. So the key is to think small and think big. Think of a small way to get started, and then of a way to make it grow bigger. And the thing I saw this year that I'd never noticed before, but with this group of classes I saw in every single class I saw this year, I guess it was at our presentation thing we were at the Million Cup event. Everybody came up when they were playing that game where they're combining the two items. They were all, when they combined when they created their product, they kept saying, oh, it'll do that. It's like the product will do everything. It's okay for a product to be limited in what they do. Your product or service doesn't have to service everybody. You can have parameters with it. Well, Winnie, you may want to do parties, but you may not want to do wedding parties. Say leave that up to the wedding planners. There's plenty of those out there. So you've got your niche, and you're not in competition with them on top of that. And they may recommend you for something. Who knows?
Mm.
Or you may just deal with the party after the wedding. Who knows? Whatever the deal is.
Mm.
So I'll have to look at that. Eric sent us a video. I'll have to copy the chat. I think I'll have to figure out how to do that, but I'll go ahead and take a look at that too. Can you give us a little background on that video, Eric?
Yeah. What I find is fascinating about it is everything that we do is derived from motivation, but from the motivation, you have to be able to understand how to learn. And different people have different philosophies on learning, and breaking down what you're trying to accomplish into small steps, daily activities, like you're going to suggest through this book, One Thing, and things like that, are going to be a critical part in your success. But none of it matters if you don't have the right motivation. You will probably only do it half done, and that's the way I've always lived my life. I've done just enough because I have so much going on in my life that if I really don't want to do it, I'm only going to do half because I feel like I need to save my energy for something else or do something else fully that I'm more motivated to do. Like for an example for you guys, I've had probably 15 jobs in my life. I'm, 39 years old right now. One of my jobs that I had younger in life was the fact I was cleaning someplace. And I told myself I wanted to make $50 an hour cleaning. Most people that clean usually only make minimum wage, right? I thought to myself, how do I make $50 an hour? And so these people told me, hey, go in, clean this place, and we'll give you $100 a day. So I figured out a systematic approach on how to clean this building in 2 hours. And then I made $50 an hour. But then all the people there got mad because I was making more money than the rest of the people, so they fired me. The point of that story is I was motivated to make that money. I knew I only had that amount of time, and I was bold and brave enough to stand up and not care if I got fired or not. I've been fired from like 5 different jobs. And the reason is because jobs don't work. They're inefficient, and it's unfortunate, and that's part of the journey that you're going to find. But this YouTube video is fascinating when you watch it. It seems really old, and the guy seems really lame and boring. But as you decide to watch it, you'll find he teaches you a methodology on how to learn anything really quickly in a systematic process, and how to accomplish setting yourself up for success, realizing you don't have to know everything right away. And anyways, I watched this video. I caught it like 30 days ago. I watched it, and it's helped me with my new motivation and my new goals to achieve crazy things. You wouldn't even believe it would take me hours to explain the kind of things I've achieved recently from just some of the knowledge from this video. And this video teaches you leverage. Leverage is going to be your best friend, and you'll find out about it when you watch it.
Oh, I just pulled it up and looked at it. I have seen this guy before. He is good. I do remember this guy. Yeah. I might have actually looked at this. Did you send this once to me already, Eric?
Yeah, I did.
I did. This is good, guys. That link is good. That's kind of a mind-blowing thing. He really you want to deep dive. This guy's good. Thanks, Eric, for sharing that. I'd even forgotten about that guy. There's so many resources out there that one of the reasons I want to put a group together is to put all the resources. I'll put it out. I need to come up with, I'm still working on the name. I don't know if I just should call it Financial Fridays, but half the stuff doesn't happen on Fridays. Or if we should use Vision Plan Executor or something else. But, I want to put together a website that has the resources, and so you find out where you are in life, where your business is in life, its life, and then find the resources for that in there. Hold on one moment. I got to take care of something. For some reason, my furnace is continually running, and it's getting really warm in here. And if you look at my face is looking really, I could feel the heat coming off my face. It's too warm in here.
I have a question.
Huh? Yeah. Go ahead.
So you said there was like 4 things for the business pitch that you were gonna look for, or that you came up with recently, that you said you were gonna like let me in.
Yes, that's right. I'll have to find those 4 things. Okay. Yeah, I can't remember what I called them. I found the notes from them. They were from last year, and I thought, oh my. I actually remember where they are. They're in my planner from last year during the competition. So it was like April or May. So I have to go back through. Here's another good reason for scribing. Let me see if I can bring this up here real quick. So here's the guy here. Can you just change the picture? Can you see the guy? What are you seeing? Are you seeing the One Thing book, or are you seeing a guy, bald-headed guy?
Bald-headed guy.
Okay, good. All right, so that's the guy Eric was talking about. That's the video, Jeff Kaufman. Let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can show you real quick here. This is the Franklin Day Planner. In 1988, someone introduced me to this day planner, and I've used it for years. I have planning books like this that go back to 1988. I can go back. I was trying the other day, my wife and I were talking about when I proposed to her, and we were trying to remember. I actually was able to go back into 1991 and find the day that I proposed, because I described it in there. You can't until you. I have these storage shell sleeves here, cases and sleeves. I have one of these for every year since 1988. I have notes of stuff I've scribed, and it's so useful for going back into. Well, there's one of these binder books, storage cases that I've got that actually has the notes from that class from last year. And when I went to file away last year's stuff away, I kind of reviewed it. It's a good time to review, see where you were last year, where you are this year, how much progress have you made, how many things didn't you get done. It's kind of a good review. And that's when I came across those notes. So 6 rules for presentations, I guess. I'll find it, Wendy,
Okay.
because she wants a leg up. She wants to win this thing, right?
Yes.
So I may not be able to judge yours for that reason. I might have to recluse myself. Whatever. Set myself aside. And here I go butchering the English language again. So, yeah, that would be, there's so many resources. I mean, I've got all kinds of bookmarks and web pages I've subscribed to that are so useful.
Just out of curiosity, what is the pitch that you're trying to accomplish? What's the mission behind what you're doing?
Each of the students, either individually or as a group or as a team, need to come up with a business product or service, and they have to write a complete business plan. They have to do their financials, Eric. They do. This is really quite good. They have to come up with a business plan. They have this thing called a canvas. And you guys might have to remind, I've never seen it done. I've only seen kind of the end part of it, but they have to fulfill, have to say what their marketing is by filling particular needs for the client. They've got a bunch of criteria they have to meet in this competition, and they have what they call a matrix, which basically a Rubik. They call it a Rubik's. My bad. But basically, these are the items they're supposed to show during their presentation, and whether or not, and then how well they do it. The presentation is everything from how well they pitch it, even how their appearance is. I mean, if they come in tattered T-shirts and jeans and stuff, they're not very businesslike. Me, I don't score very high. If you come acting like a slob, you're not dressed for business. So that's kind of how I run that one. So and then it's basically like Shark Tank. They have to have everything together beforehand. And the actual competition itself is just like Shark Tank. They have to get up there. They have to pitch their ideas. They have to show their financials, and they have to tell them who their customer is, and all this other stuff. And they have a panel of judges, and some of the judges I don't even agree with, because they're just so focused in on they're not focused in on the business running side, but they're focused on coaching during that competition. I says, it's not the time to coach. It's the time to judge, because you should be already have gone through that. So they try to give people ideas and stuff from their own side of their business rather than what their business currently is presenting at that particular time. And it's basically, how feasible is the business? How feasible is it that you're actually going to make a profit? So
I see.
And they actually win cash prizes.
You guys want to add anything else to that?
I overtook it. Eddie presented them the finals. Eddie.
Yeah, I didn't make it.
Well, you made it to the finals, though. You didn't make any money, but you made it to the finals, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He won his class competition, so he went on for the finals that were against other students in the was it all the Fort Worth School District and stuff, or was it? It wasn't just Arlington.
I think it was the whole region.
Oh, all DFW. It was all the DFW region. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So how was the experience for you? What'd you learn from it?
Learn to choose ideas that you actually want to do, because I didn't want to do landscaping. I just chose it out of spite. And the other thing is because that's what one of the judges told me. I was telling her, they asked me, "Is this something you want to do?" I was like, "No, I really want to do this."
I think that's what hurt you.
Yeah, I think that's why I didn't win. I shouldn't have said that. But uh, that and as well as being, I got more confident in myself and talking. Before I wasn't like confident.
Yeah,
As
he's getting better.
presenting. Yeah, and just practice. It just gets you better. Yeah.
Now, Wendy, you did the same thing for the marketing day.
Does something like presenting?
Well, yeah, your presentation is similar to it. You had a very whittled down version of financials because let me explain to Eric what marketing day is the competition they have the first half of the year, and they basically come up with a product or service, most of it's product, but that they sell during lunchtime in the school itself. And it's a lot of it's food items. So they have to come up with what type of food they're making. Are they doing any? Some students even had games that kids could play video games and pay to play video games and that type of stuff. But they had to come up with a plan for what they were going to do, why people were going to. They actually had to go out and do market research, right? You did market research. You went out and, or no, I guess the school sent it out, and then you took the market research and decided on your product. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we just came out with the product, and we would go like around in classes and asking people.
Oh, you did go around. Okay. And then you, what did you do next?
And then we analyzed it, and then, well, we had like a bunch of products at first, and we just shortened it down to only like 3 or 4 products, so it would be like simple and get more profit out of it.
And you did financials for it.
Oh yeah, and the financials.
Yeah. They had to prove when they did their presentation that, say they, I don't remember, do you remember your numbers on it? How much money did you need to borrow in order to get your business started?
How much was it? I think it was like almost 80.
Yeah. So, and then in their financials, they had to show they made a profit. So if we felt, number one, that they could make a profit and their numbers were in line, they actually got the $80 to get their company started. So they went in, and how much did you actually make?
We made like 200 something, but then we had to pay the money back. We had to pay like 100 back.
Yep.
So
had to pay the borrowed money back.
yeah, and then so it ended up being like 100 and something, and then we all had to get our money for. Hold on.
Family stuff. So anyway, while she's doing that, what they had to do is they had to get their money together. They had to pay back their loan, and then depending on the size of their team, say they made $100 and there was 4 people, everybody got $25. So that was their first business experience. A lot of people, I'm thinking that was their first business experience.
It was. For me, it was.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. We have interruptions like that. So, I kind of answer your question, Eric?
Yeah, you did. I was curious to hear, like what's their motivation behind doing this?
Go ahead, Eddie. What was your motivation?
I didn't I didn't want to even do it. It's Dr. Butler encouraged me to do it.
Well, let's go back to the basics. The why. Why did you guys take the class to begin with? So why did you go in the youth entrepreneurs class?
Alan told me to take it.
I want to learn about business.
Ellen told you to take it, yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of students that are in there for that purpose because it's a class that, sometimes I don't think everybody in the class really has an idea for business. But I know from talking with Wendy and Eddie, they have a desire to get into real estate. But they're looking, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking for the vehicle. Now you need to look for a vehicle to get the money to get started in real estate.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
what,
I wanted to learn about business. I took the class because I was trying to take it on my junior year, my sophomore year, but I didn't accept
it was
it.
junior year.
No, well, sophomore year I tried to join, but I joined junior year. And I did learn a lot of things like taking the class. I would have learned from, I don't know, if I didn't take it, a lot of things wouldn't have happened.
When you before you took the class, what did you think you would be doing after graduation?
Uh, Going to college and probably figuring it out, what I really wanted to do in college.
What would you do after you got out of college? You didn't have a goal. You didn't have a
Mm-mm. I
job.
didn't have,
Okay. Now what are your plans?
my plans are to get my real estate license and work as a real estate agent so I can get like my feet on the ground, like how offers work, how contracts work, wholesaling, stuff like that. So I can be better adequate when doing real estate investing. Because I would just go straight into real estate investing and watch and not actually like experience it, then I'll probably won't do as good and fail. And so if I do help people buy houses and sell houses, I'll be uh, better knowledgeable on that. And
Okay.
well, like learning the market, when to buy and when to sell, all that stuff. So yeah.
I didn't know you were going that way. My wife became an agent by doing an online study course for I think it was $1,200. That's cheaper than most college education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do it through. I forgot the Champions. In Champions, it's online. I mean, you can just do it for
I don't remember
$1,200,
which one
$1,000,
hers.
something like that.
Hers is online. I guess hers is online test, but it comes with DVDs and books and everything else. So what about you, Wendy?
Mm-hmm.
Before you
You
took
can take it on.
go ahead.
You can take it online, or you can just go to their campus and take their exam and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Wendy, before you got into the entrepreneur class, what did you think you'd be doing when you got out of graduated?
The same thing, I guess, just going to college and then, well, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do since I was like 15 because I really wanted to know to start early, but I had no idea. And then how I was going to get there either. But then taking the class, like, it gives you, like, it shows you that you can actually do things at a young age. And I don't know, I got more of an idea of what I want to do now since I took that class.
And what is that?
There's a lot of things I want to do because I'm also taking a marketing class and an advertising class and a graphic design class. And I really like the marketing and the advertising side of it too. And the entrepreneur, I like almost every aspect of the business and the classes that I'm taking. So,
So
yeah.
sounds like it's giving you a little bit more direction.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things I want to do. Like, I want to do real estate. I want to be a motivational speaker for sure. Um, I want to get into like the marketing and advertising side, pitching ideas, commercials, advertising to people. And then graphic design really helps me with that. And then owning my own business. And yeah, just things like that.
Now you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I have it, but I haven't read it yet. My brother is reading it right now. I mean,
I know you've got lots of books, so
yeah, I have them. Like, I have a lot.
So I think I think there's a definite change that's happened with some people with the class, because it's actually like you two have shown that you've been able to figure out what direction you're going into after college or before college, or not even, like, I think Alan's not even thinking about going to college anymore. I think he's thinking about diving right into real estate. He's going to do the sales and marketing stuff. And it's good because those are skills that are always useful when you're working with real estate.
Mhm.
Is to know, because you've always got to sell. Everybody sells. You're selling yourself to whoever your client is. So, and Eddie, I'd never even thought about that. You becoming realtor. I always kind of discourage people about becoming real estate agents because they get into sales, and it's more of a sales job. When you can't sell anymore, you don't make any money. But there is a key point that you have there, is that when you're getting all that background on real estate as far as a realtor goes, and the contracts and how deals work, and they really teach you a lot about market sales and marketing yourself, going out there and talking to people, finding your new clients. Or at least Keller Williams does. I'll have to say, most everybody has said Keller Williams is probably the best real estate agency to go in for training, but their fees that they have are kind of high. It costs money. I will tell you that you have a broker's fee, you have a real estate association fees, and then you have your lockbox fees, and then you have your MLS fees, and it ends up to several $1,000s. We actually, my wife and I suspended hers because it was just costing us way more money. And we thought because we had access in the MLS that we had access to stuff that faster and quicker than anybody else. And we go off and we ended up buying a house or a piece of property for sale by owner that wasn't even listed on the MLS. So I would encourage you, if you want to do the investing side, what you're doing is good. That's great background. But then if you want to do investing side to get the passive income rather than earned income, you want passive income, then take some of the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad classes.
Eric's leaving.
All right, so Eric's got to take off. Eric, I'll touch base with you later. You and I need to have a conversation.
Yeah. My last words here, guys. Don't do anything you don't want to do. If it sucks, just do whatever you really, really want to do. Start focusing on that. Recognize that you could go to something like a Quick Code Academy, and those guys make, some of them just right off the bat, part-time, are making 6 figures a year with a 6-month education as a coder. So just so you know, it's not very hard to learn coding. You could learn it in 6 months. You could have probably double the money that people make working at a typical job, and then you can figure it out from there. You have a base, a foundation of money coming in. I'll leave you at that.
Good point. And actually the videos that will, yep, and he's gone. Nope, he's still there. And the videos that I'll see if we can't, I'll pull up the videos, see if we can't watch the Trombone Player Wanted. It's a perfect point that Eric is trying to make, is illustrated in that video set. All right, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
You guys have any other questions?
So what is your plan for real estate investing? Like just sticking with RVs and your mobile park, or you're trying to expand to like rental?
I'm looking at, I've kind of looking at life from a different set here. I'm thinking so many people start out doing what they love and then they're not making money. And I'm listening to this guy on the business radio in the afternoons. He talks about retirement, and and that's his key thing. He talks about retirement, and there's so many, and it's probably because so many of the baby boomers now, but it applies to even the fact that people aren't even think. I think once the baby boomers are starting to get to where they have to retire and they can't do anything, they're going to realize how bad things are, that the millennials will see how bad they are, and maybe they'll have a wake-up call, because everybody between the baby boomers and the millennials have just been kind of floating out because our government allows us to think 401k or IRAs or all this other stuff, and half people don't even have money in them, and there's no social security. It's $1,200 a month. You know, some people can live on $1,200 a month, but man, it's tough. Unless you own your own home, and maybe your own home is an RV and an RV park, and you pay $495 a month for all your, you know, all the hookups and everything else, and then you've got enough for gas and food after that. It's not a heck of a lot of money to live off of. So there's a big wake up call. I can't remember the numbers he was talking about. And so many of the baby boomers were the 60s generation, the media, you know, doing their own thing kind of deal. And they didn't really plan for their future. They did what was felt good for them, not realizing the consequences. I'm of the opinion, shift that thing around, right? Let's instead think about, let me do what it takes to make a lot of money fast, the right way, ethically fast, right way. It may take 2 to 5 years to become financially independent. Really? It will in real estate. You can do that. And then whatever your heart's desire is, if you want to be a guitarist, you know, if you want to be even graphic design, sometimes you need a vehicle to get there. Graphic designer, or you want to be a web developer, or anything of the other things you wanted to do, or you just want to travel. You don't want to be tied down to one place like we no longer want to do. We want to hit the road. And so all those things are possible when you're not having to put in the labor, the exercise towards making the money. You're having your money work for you. You're not working for your money. Perfect book to read about that is Richest Man in Babylon. That reminds me, book reviews. I forgot about book reviews. We need to do that. I need to do that. So I'll review Richest Man in Babylon, because Eric and I went through it. It was real eye-opening for us, even in financial business. It was written in 1929 or something like that, 1920. And it was, I'm making notes there, and it was, it's still relevant today. And the funny thing is, the guy wrote it in a language as if you were reading the King James Bible, you know, that these and thous and, you know, thou for what were you doing kind of deal. And he wrote it all like this, but it's placed in Babylon with Babylonian, you know, gods, and, you know, but there's this whole thing about these three guys went to school, grew up, had the same education, and they're looking at their life now 20, 30 years later and finding out, why is this one guy living in luxury when we all had the same start? What did he do differently? So they go to him to find out, and he tells a story about what he did and what lessons he learned, his experience with money. And it's really a great read. It's really really an easy read too, because he does it in such a way you can rip through that thing pretty quick. So yeah, it's about making your money work for you. Then from there you can do anything you want. In fact, Eric sent me something too, and it's funny. I'd never heard of this guy. Have you guys ever heard of a guy called Kim.com?
No.
Okay. Hold on a sec. You got to see this. This is kind of funny. That's his actual name. I don't know if you see. You see my screen? So that's his name, Kim.com. So this guy, this guy, he's 45 years old. His original name was Kim Schmidt, but he had his name changed. He was married twice. He had 6 kids, I think. They're all their last names are .com. Kara, Chemo, Kalo, Kaylee, Kibo. So this guy's got, he's got some issues. Give you an idea. This is the guy here. I think that's his first wife. And then that's his second wife there. They're all real. Well, he's also, I don't know if it says so here. He's also 6'7". He's tall. So when you look at these, it looks like he's around a bunch of small women or something. He's just a big guy. But this guy is flamboyant. There's a video you can see. But Eric and I look at these guys. He's not the kind of lifestyle I'd like. But you kind of get an idea of what kind of guy he is. That's his second wife there. That's one of his cars. Here's a Mercedes. And, he's got these license plate. One says God. One says, that one says God. I can't remember what his other ones say. Kim.com on that one. But anyway, he's got these weird personalized license plates. This one says evil. So I give you an idea. But anyway, in essence, he's made all his money and now he can do whatever he wants and he lives a flamboyant lifestyle. Now, you don't have to waste your money on all the, let's see if there's a picture of his house and all. You don't have to waste your money. This is probably his boat. Actually, there's a couple of governments out after him. He's got the U.S. government's after him for piracy laws and piracy things and all kinds of stuff. There you go. So we study rich people, both the good and the evil ones, as it were. This guy's a little bit on the wild side, but it just shows that when you get money, then other people aren't really telling you what to do. You can make up your life about what you want to do for yourself. Trying to see if the one I just heard about this guy the other day. So that must be his, and that's his house.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, his house is just. See if I can get a better. Oh, here.
Are those tennis courts?
These are tennis courts on this side. That is. Hold on a sec. So there's tennis courts there. This is a maze.
Wow.
A hedge maze. Yeah. It's got. I think this is the pool area over here. This is his garage. This whole thing over here. And he had to flee. He fled to New Zealand. So I hear another ding. We might be getting cut off here pretty soon anyway.
Oh no, that's my phone. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just getting text too. So hold on a sec. Let me do something. Yeah, someone wants to know if I'm still on the phone.
Who?
Hold on a sec. So anyway, we study the rich people. See what the rich people do. There's 2 different types of rich people. Let me see. Millionaire Next Door. And actually, the best book I've read so far is The Millionaire Mindset. But I'm trying to find the guy's name. Here it is. This is Thomas J. Stanley. He's wrote The Millionaire Next Door, The Millionaire Mind, and Stop Acting Rich. And he basically breaks down. We all can't be professional athletes. We all can't be celebrities and rock stars, but we all can be millionaires. So he looks at the people who became millionaires on their own, not in those fashions, but in the fact that they built themselves into being millionaires rather than they They earned it through mega film stars and that kind of stuff. And there's things that they do. The Millionaire Mind shows how they think differently than most people do. There's a big deal about how poor think versus rich, poor thinking versus rich thinking, and was see if I can find it. There's a whole thing opportunity, poor mentality and rich mentality. Thinks how to save more, thinks how to make more. That's the difference between a rich person and a poor person. Give you an idea. So those are the kind of things that we take time studying. And Robert Kiyosaki, I think, said it best. He says when he's growing up as a kid, they'd want something, and his rich dad or his own father, his poor dad, would say that we can't afford that. His rich dad to have them say, how can we afford that? And get them thinking. It's not just a solid, no, you can't do it. It's how can you do it? Get your creative mind thinking about how can you do this. And,
can you explain the second one?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain the second one, like to the rich side? Knows that beliefs materialize?
He thinks he is missing something, knows what beliefs materialize. That one I'm not sure about. I'd have to go funders and founders. I'll have to check that out. I just grabbed one of the images. I'd never seen this one before, but I was looking for a different one I couldn't find. So, beliefs, yeah.
Honestly, it's taking a leap of faith.
Huh?
Taking a leap of faith, because like he's walking over it, and the other guy is thinking of not going over it because he might like.
I think that's what. Well, yeah, it's like there's something missing, and just knowing it, you're not doing anything about it. Where this knows that you can get there and actually work towards materializing. You're probably right, Eddie. It's probably what it is. It's kind of like the last one. This is more mentality than actions, but believes money grows literally because to make more you must do more. Yeah, he thinks it's for what you do. Where the other guy knows that money grows, he knows he can basically leverage money. He can make money work for them. The best illustration is in Richest Man in Babylon. It's a really good book, and you guys would rip through it pretty quickly. So, lots of material we can cover. A lot of great books. Yeah, the Millionaire Mind. I think that's the one I like the best.
So, are we having a webinar of these like next week on the weekend too?
Yeah, I'm gonna do. How long has it been since our breakfast?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Well, that's right, because last week we tried to do one of these, and I had the email issue, and Wendy's like, panic. I just got it. Help me. No, that was me. So anyway, so we're looking at probably. Well, let's look at let me see if I can pull up my calendar here. Take a look on my other side here. So we had it, or was it the 2nd? So what's the 2nd, the 23rd? Well, let's just do it the 2nd of March. How's that sound for our get together breakfast?
Let's see.
Okay, so next week we're gonna do a webinar, and the week after that we're gonna meet in person.
Okay, let me look at that. That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, you mean in person the next week?
No, next week we're having a webinar, and the week after, which is March 2nd, we're gonna meet in person.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, because the 9th, I won't be able to. For me and Alan are having BPA. We're going to Dallas, the state.
You're doing what? You're doing what now?
We're doing BPA, on the 9th. The
What is that?
Business Professionals America. The last. I told you about it. If you're
I
asking,
think I remember it. Yeah. I just trying to
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
we're doing that.
I just saw one of these pictures in here was Robert, so I had to read this one. Yeah, see, this is what you guys are already doing. If you want to be rich, be friends with people who have the same mindset, or at least won't try to change your mindset to be more like theirs. Life is too short to spend time with people who don't help you move forward. In
Oh,
fact, actually, it wasn't until my wife had gone to one of her Keller Williams trainings. You'll probably, if you're in Arlington, she was with the Arlington Board of Realtors and went through the Arlington Keller Williams. But they actually, he said something that was really interesting. You, the guy, one of the instructors says, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang with.
I've heard that before.
So, you know, if someone's dragging you down, ditch them. Go find somebody higher up that's going to bring you up, help bring you up. You know, it's someone that's going to keep you encouraged, keep you on track, keep you positive thinking. So many naysayers hang around with other naysayers and wonder why everybody's all so grumpy and groany. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, you're never going to get there. They'll always find someone to blame for where they're at. I have no idea what that is, but that makes a lot of Oh, here you go. We find friends who are willing to help, to mentor us to grow, avoid the bucket of crabs, avoid all the negative guys, avoid people who think they can never do it because they couldn't themselves. So if you think you're better than me, I'm going to tear you down to my level. You know, there's people like, if you think, I've been with people that are kind of, they know that you've gone further than they have. And so to bring you down to their level, they try to tear you down, you know? So you need to get rid of those kind of people. If you're in a room where you really believe you are the smartest person, you're in the wrong room. So I'd never seen these before. So see, I'd Google around, I find all kinds of stuff. Is that top major differences between wealthy and poor people? Shocking differences between rich and poor? I'm going to have to look at some of these. These are pretty interesting.
This is yours. It's been.
Oh yeah,
I love that one.
I read something or I heard something about like that I think you told us too about this, that without knowing, like the poor or the rich, they just hand down the habits that they have to their kids, like without knowing. Yes. And like it becomes a habit to them. It's like natural. It's like something they already do because their family's already like that. So it just like passes down to them without even knowing. It's like a habit.
Absolutely. I've seen it. I've seen it in real life, both in the rich people that I've met, that their kids are the same way. They're very business motivated, very, very financially stable. They're not extravagant. They're taught to manage their money and not blow it. They're not just, it's not all about the inheritance. It's about what they do. And I've seen the opposite side. I've seen people that are in deep poverty giving financial advice to their kids. And it's like, you're getting it from the wrong place, telling them about, well, if you do this just right, you'll get we can get you welfare. Or if you do this just right, we can get you food stamps. And if you do this just right, the government will pay for your education. It's like,
that makes people dependent, and
it's not about self-responsibility. What was that, Eddie?
It makes them dependent. It doesn't intend them to do anything.
It's slavery. You said it there, Eddie. You said it's slavery.
Yeah. Have you heard of John Stossel?
Who?
John Stossel.
Oh yeah, John Stossels. Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. It's really
Yeah,
he can be some
I've
real
been
eye
wa-
opening stuff.
yeah, I've been watching a lot of his videos last night, and he was
Now
talking about the Native
that was Wendy's
Americans
turn to yawn.
have the biggest
Well,
government assistance,
if
and
you
then
guys if you guys see
have the
good
most
stuff like
poverty.
that, if you guys can see good stuff like that, send it our way, man. Or send me the link so I can share it off to the group. I
Uh,
still have to get to the newsletter part where where I send links and stuff.
yeah, I was watching a bunch of this stuff, like how government schools, I guess, they don't do as well as other schools, like charter schools. He was giving an example, like how charter schools would have higher test scores and higher retentions than government-run schools, because when charter schools they have competition amongst each other because they have to be paid, while government schools are paid by the government and they don't have to incentivize in bettering
Wow.
the programs because
Have
they're
you
all the same. The teachers are getting paid. The schools still getting being funded because of the government, and that's it. But with charter schools, they have to actually fight for for kids to join their attend their schools because they're getting paid to do that. So their incentive to do better at their programs and stuff like that. And last time we were having a conversation with my teacher was talking about how should teachers be paid more and stuff like that because the only way they get higher they increase their raise is by their seniority. So the longer you've been teaching, the more pay you get, and
It's about
that
time,
really
Clint.
incentivizes them.
It's not about
Yeah,
performance.
it is.
It's not about performance. It's about time.
Yeah, it's about mm, how long you've been working there.
This
Uh,
is this is a guy I'm going to probably try and turn you guys on to. Here's Gary Cassie and his wife Drinda. They do a lot of mentoring, financial mentoring and stuff. They have a minister. He's actually a church pastor. He's got quite the amazing story. But he was going through. He does these ones every couple months about different financial business tips or personal financial tips. And one of the things they talk about is how to get you out of debt. And one of the things is they talked about education, and this was amazing to me. I didn't realize this. So they were talking about the cost of private school versus public school because they're Christians. They didn't want them going to public school because of all the crap that goes in there. And then they figured out that they were going to homeschool. And this is an interesting fact. Not only do they save all the money from homeschooling from a private school, a private school will actually the students are actually a grade level above public schools in a charter school, in a public school, in a private school over a public school, right? They are 3 grade levels above in a homeschooled environment. Makes sense. They're kind of getting more direct attention and focus, and it's not 1 to 30, it's one-on-one, right? The thing that really blew me away was the fact that the amount of time it took. The average homeschooler spends 2.5 hours being homeschooled. Because think about your daily routine at school. Half of it's moving around between classes and dealing with everybody else and having to go, once you grasp the subject, you can move on to the next one. Whereas if you haven't, the teacher's got to go through all the different things and recover things and, cover the stuff that they had before, where when you're homeschooled, it doesn't. So you're basically cramming 3 years of study into one in 2.5 hours a day. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. And that's why I'm thinking alternate educations. You going and getting your real estate license gives you the education you need for where you're going to go, what you want to do. Getting then further education me see if I can find it. Hold on a second. Here it is. This is Rich Dad's Educate. This is the training I went through called the Elite Training. And I probably spent as much as a college education, but I came out of it much more focused on the items I wanted to, and I got down to the nuts and bolts rather than all the theory. I got down to the practical. When you go to business school, you'll learn all the theory, and it's actually the practical where I think you learn the most. So give you an idea, here's the training for real estate investing. Here's all the different, where's the close? Here's commercial real estate, creative real estate financing, discount notes and mortgages, land development, lease options, foreclosure strategies. I went through the foreclosures class. I went through the mobile home class, and I went through tax and asset protection class. Seems like there was, oh, and I went through the marketing today class. So I've been through all those classes. This is about 30 grand, but you don't have to take them all at once. And their pricing is all different now anyway. So I don't know. I think it's like $5,000 a class. But boy, it gets you down on it. It's 3 days of intensive training. You get books and everything else, and then you just carry it on after that. So the training is really cheap when you think about it. And I think it used to be $5,000 a class, and you could bring a guest with you. Now I think that they got rid of the guest thing. I think it's only $2,500. I could be wrong on the pricing. There's one, I don't see it now anymore. They may not have it. They had one on foreign investments, where they actually had a trip to Costa Rica to learn how to invest in real estate in a foreign country. That was a whole course on itself. Tax liens, there's wholesaling. You can get into real estate with just wholesaling. Means you don't actually have any money in the game, but you bringing a buyer. It's kind of like a real estate agent without having to have a license. You find
a buyer. You find a buyer, and then you find someone who's selling.
Or you find a seller, or vice versa. You find a seller, and you find a buyer for the seller. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, land development. That's one I'd like to take. I probably need to take that with what I'm doing now. International. Oh, there it is. International land development. That's the one where they actually go off Costa Rica. Prepaid airfare, excursions, sightseeing, adventures, luxury resort accommodations. This one's a little bit more expensive, but now get this. If it's my education and I have a business set up already and I've set my business up properly and it has to be a particular type of business corporation set up, then that course is tax deductible. And here's the deal. If you are to spend, you've spent $1,200 to set up the entity, right? So you have a business. Then you can take that class and spend, say it's $5,000. So you have $6,200 into it, right? The numbers may not be accurate, but give you an idea. That's $6,200. If you don't make $6,200 in profit that year, that money that you have in there as expenses carries over year to year to year. I took the class back in 2010, 2012, my classes, my other classes. I still haven't made all the money back from it, but I can still deduct those because I can carry my expenses over year after year after year. So something you'll learn when you take the tax and asset protection class. But before you take any of these classes, we get you set up with an entity that will pay. I had my entity set up before I took the class. I was the only one in the class that could deduct the class because I already had my entity set up prior to taking the class. So all my educational expenses, my travel, it was in Vegas, my accommodations while I was in Vegas, my food, everything was a business expense. So
Oh.
if you're going to do it right, get a tax deduction for it. All righty. As before, we go long. So if you guys don't have anything else, then we'll go ahead and meet next week. If you guys have any questions or anything, I'll get the recording out and get that off to you guys.
I have a question.
Okay.
What's entity?
An entity. Good question. How's the best way to say it? You're an entity, Eddie's an entity, and I'm an entity, but a business can be an entity as well. Was Garrett Sutton, who is Robert Kiyosaki's lawyer, my lawyer too, wrote a book called Owning Your Own Corporation. See if I can find a good thing. A thing or just independent. It's called an independent existence. That's probably the best way to define it. So my business exists outside of myself. So it's a separate entity. It's a separate. It can be an organizations can be entities. It's separate from myself. So it's a set aside. It's a distinct set aside. It's a legal term. It's also it's got its own persona, say.
So if you had a business that was kind of yours, but it was like an entity, if you weren't to be part of that business, it could like depend on itself. Like it's all good without you.
No. What it is it's separate from you, but doesn't mean it's without you. I know where and I kind of gave that impression, so I apologize for that too. With an entity is that let me figure it out. An entity would be something like Pepsi. Pepsi is a company, but there's not one person that makes up Pepsi, right? But it's a separate entity, so it's treated like a human in a lot of ways. In a lot of senses legally. This all came out of the 1800s, 1700s? 1700s and 1800s, I think. I'll have to look in the history of it. When vessels were doing shipments between the Caribbean and the Americas and stuff, and these business owners would send out their ships to go do the trading, right? Business trading. But if the ship sunk, then the families of those sailors could go after the owners, and so owners were real reluctant to do anything because it was a major risk. So what they came up with was entities where it became its own business. So what happened is that this business sent out. Although these owners own the business, but the business sent out these ships, and if someone sued them, they sued the business, but the person's personal wealth was not included in this. They didn't go totally bankrupt. So they had the ability to start another company and continue doing trading and continuing providing business and trade and finance and everything else without losing everything.
So an entity is practically to protect your personal money and all that stuff. So they can only like take money away from that business, but not from you personally.
If it's set up right and it's managed right and it's done correctly, yes. But entities are also used for even nonprofits. So it's treated as a separate. Institution, establishment. It's a body, I guess is the best way. It's kind of an abstract term. What is an example of an entity here? Let's see. It's an object in the system that we want to model or store information about. Yeah, that's not really. That's for something else. A person. What are the types of entities? That's pretty much a legal. It's used for legal terms quite a bit. So you get you so used to using words and you don't even think about how to define them. That's tough sometimes.
Can you use entity like those are my entities? Like if you have organization in a business and all these other businesses, can you say those are my entities, or you can just say that's an entity that I have? How would you use that? Nice.
Yes and no. The yes part of it is yes, they are. No, the no part of it, you never tell anybody that.
Oh.
There's a little bit of trick to maneuvering things. When what I tell people about my businesses is that I don't own them. I manage them. I am the senior managing member of an LLC, or I am an officer working for the company that I happen to own stocks for. I don't tell them I own all the stocks in the company. I tell them I work for the company. So my Telesis Enterprise company, I may own 100% of the stocks, or my wife and I split 150-50 on the stocks. But when people ask me about that, I say, no, I'm just the president of the company, or I'm just the CEO of the company, which actually is two different. Most people don't understand. They're two different jobs. There's two different jobs. I don't normally tell them that I also have controlling stock interest in the company as well. So with an LLC, though, the officers who are running the company have a different set of names in an LLC than they would an S Corp or C Corp. Because in an S Corp and C Corp, you have a CEO who runs the company, and you have the president who runs the board of directors, the board of directors. The board of directors manages the shareholders and reports to the shareholders. The CEO reports to the board of directors. The president is the head of the board of directors. So that gets really interesting there. So you have all these management flow charts of who owns what, where, how. And then it gets real fun because entities can own other entities. I have a company that is a IT consulting company. All the stocks in that company are owned by my S corporation. I have an LLC company that 100% of the stocks in are owned by my S corporation. In my S corporation, I own 50% of the stocks. My wife owns the other 50%. If one of my employees in this company does something really screwy and causes somebody to sue us, they can take this company away. Or if they don't take the company away, they can take ownership of the stock. But they can't take the higher entity, and they can't take my personal entity. They can't take anything from it. Now, they might take the stock from this company and have voting rights for this company, but they don't have control over this because this company will manage that. And there's ways to manage those people out of there. Something in that class that I was talking about, that tax and asset protection class, that's something you learn in that class. They have this thing called phantom income, where a company can make money and you're liable for the taxes, but the company holds on to the money and doesn't give it down to the shareholders. So suddenly shareholders have to pay the taxes on it, but they don't have anything in return. So if someone has sued me, over my company, if someone sues me for ownership in my company because of something I did, they can take over my position in the company, and then they can get the taxes from the money that company makes, but not get the income for it and have to out of pocket. The lawyers know to stay away from those type of companies. They're set up that way. So they'll normally sell out. They'll settle for much less, and it's just a way of protecting assets. It does not remove you from responsibility, but protects you from these people looking for deep pocket lawsuits. Give you an example. The lady who got scolded and drinking hot cup of coffee from McDonald's,
Oh, yeah.
If she'd gone to a little mom pa donut shop and the same thing happened, number one, they probably wouldn't get sued. Secondly, if they did, they'd only get maybe a couple $100,000 because of the fact that's all they people were worth. Whereas McDonald's is worth billions, and they had to pay millions for the lawsuit. And it just keeps people from frivolous lawsuits. That's what it is. It's protection against frivolous lawsuits. Doesn't exempt you from your responsibility to operate your business and yourself in a responsible manner. Wheels turning there.
No, that's a very good thing you talk about. How you
Let me-
can protect
let-
your personal identities by having you can protect your LLC by having control over an escort. So if someone does try to sue you in your LLC, you try to, like you're saying, someone of the employees gets screwy, and you can kick him out because of the escort that owns the LLC, something like that. I didn't understand, but I don't know how to explain it.
It's tough. I mean, when you get kind of, and I've actually wrote that down, Wendy, is something that maybe I can explain entities a little bit better. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe Investatopia does. Investatopia, and you guys know about this site?
Yeah, I think there's stuff on there.
It has some great. It has some great information. Hold on a sec. It has some great information, but so much of their investment stuff is geared towards stock-based stuff and not necessarily real estate, unless it's specifically a real estate item. See this NNT. Oh, it helps if I spell it right. Duh.
Promise we're about to die.
Through NNT equity trade. See if this does it. Basic theoretical assumption of all the economic activity conducted by a business is separate from that of its owners. That's basically what it is. It's it actually, an NNT will get its own tax ID. The tax ID has the same number of digits as your social. Eddie, what are you doing? You're upside down.
I rushed to my charger.
You just cracked me up, dude. So it has the entity number has the same number of digits as your social security. So you can fill out forms with your business entity ID from the IRS for tax purposes. It has the same number. What is it? 7? No, that's not right. 7, 8, 9 digits. But it has the first 2 digits, and then it has the other 7. Where we have 3, 2, and 4, it has 2 and 7. So it's basically the government sees it as a separate taxable entity. We're a taxable entity. It's a taxable entity. It's just a separation.
Mm-hmm. I get it now.
Okay. Anything else?
I can ask questions all day, but I have to go.
I know you can. Yeah, and I probably should too. I've got to get ready for. I'm taking a webinar class, like I said, this afternoon, so I've got to get into that too. And Eddie's already left us. I'm teasing you. All right, guys. Hey, it was fun. I enjoyed talking with you guys. I hope you guys have got something out of it, and you guys enjoyed it too. And I'll set it up for. Does it help if I schedule this in advance or closer to, or maybe I should schedule this like today and then send out a reminder on Friday and Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That works better for you guys? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how much longer is Alan in his thing before he's free?
Hopefully just this day. I was asking him like when he'd be over with him, probably this week. I
Oh,
don't know. I gotta ask him. I gotta ask him.
all right. Well, it'd be fun for him to come to breakfast with us. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, and I've got a guy. I met a guy the other day too. Some guy is looking for a loan from our company, and he actually teaches real estate classes, and he's willing to come teach us personally. He's willing to come to Texas to do it.
Oh.
Ooh.
So I might, yeah. It's quite a thing because he was this whole thing. It was mostly about flipping, but about flipping real estate, buying real estate, finding financing for real estate. Should be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to talking with the guy some more. So anyway,
Oh, so you said we're doing field trips like once a month. So are we doing one like this month or next month?
we're doing one once the weather warms up
Summer.
and it's a good time to go out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of cold.
It has been kind of cold lately. So now that I've turned the heat off, now I'm getting colder. But hey, um, by the way, you like my new corner office?
Yeah.
Yeah. The view is pretty. Is that a green screen or is that like
It's a
your
great screen back there. Yeah. I was playing around with it. It's got other ones. I was like, I don't even know if Eric said anything. I just picked, you put any background back there that you want. So I thought I'd play with it. I'm looking for one that actually has like the office bookcase back in it. So it looks like I'm in a big executive office.
I didn't even realize it was a green screen. I thought it was like real, like
Well, good. Then I served this purpose and worked fine. Either that or you're really gullible, Wendy. I don't know which one is
I'm
it.
really
All righty. All right, guys. And Wendy, you can always email me questions. I'd be glad to answer them that way too. So if you come up, think about things during the week, don't hesitate. It may make good subject matter for these meetings.
Yeah, I feel like I should write it down and then get it in person because I understand things better like in person or talking like this.
Well, send them to me. Send me the questions, and then I'll save them up and I'll answer the questions during our face-to-face time.
Okay, one last question. For your trailer thing, is that here in Arlington, like in the city that you were trying to do?
For my what thing? My trailer?
Yeah,
My
your
property?
yeah,
My development of the property to be an RV park?
yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? It's in Tarrant County, and it's kind of complicated because it's unincorporated, not zoned. Unincorporated means there's no city. It's not part with any city limits. Unzoned, which means there's no zoning saying it can be commercial or residential or multifamily or any of that stuff. But it's what they call an extended jurisdiction territory, which means it's in Fort Worth's extended jurisdiction territory, or ETJ they call it. It means that any changes to it have to be approved by Fort Worth. Probably because Fort Worth at some point in time in the future wants to control the area we're in because they may want to extend the city out to that area. That'd be huge because it's way past Saginaw. It's almost to Newark. So
Yeah, because I was hearing something about the city how it doesn't let you make like new parks. You either have to the parks that you have now like renovate those and do stuff with those, but you can't make any new ones.
true.
It's something about how you're making money and the city doesn't like it or something like that. But I heard something about that.
Yeah, and actually, you're right on the nose on that one. First of all, a lot of the municipalities have a hard time with RV parks. So when you're outside a municipality like I am, then it's not so hard, especially because Texas is kind of loosey-goosey when it comes to a lot of code enforcement and stuff outside of the city limits. They don't enforce code. So it means like, give you an example. Some of my neighbors have the same size property I have, and they have like 4 mobile homes on it. And they've got no, they have nothing that says you can only have 1 or 2, or it has to be, it has to be an acre or whatever. Johnson County, some areas of Johnson County says that you can only have 1 home per acre. So it means that there's huge pieces of land because they've got people all spread out. All different how the municipalities make the rules up. A lot of Texas is just kind of cowboy. Do your own cowboy maverick. Let me say it that way. Just do your own thing until someone tells you not to, which is, and building building an RV park is not recommended by the professionals. And here's the reason why. It's because you don't know if it'll be successful or not. What we're doing is different. We already own the land. We're going to build a pad for ourselves for our place. We're going to build other pads and see how those work out. If people start coming to them, then we know it's a success and we'll continue. The park that we're in now, it's in Wise County. We're just across the county line. We're just 7 mile drive south to get to our land. But they've got 60 or 70 lots in this one, and they're just adding another 28. They're growing. And the reason they're growing is because there's such a demand for it. There's another video, if you really want to learn about RVing, where it talks about the demographics of who these RVers are. And they're both the baby boomers who are downsizing. They don't want to have to keep care of a yard. They don't, do anything. They might want to travel some, and they go in and they live in an RV. Or a lot of the millennials who don't want to have the debt load that their parents had with a house, house payment, for actually sometimes less than the price of rent, you can own an RV or make payments on an RV. You can buy used RVs and fund them and pay less than you would for rent. And then say you're working a job and you have to move because of your job, you're gone. You just go wherever the job is, And look at the real estate markets. How many markets have fluctuated? Right now it's a hot market in Vegas, but during the downturn, well, Vegas and Florida are two perfect examples. When the market's up, the market's really up. When the market's down, the market's really down. They crash hard. They go up high and they crash hard. Texas is a little bit more stable. The Pacific Northwest is a little bit more stable, but they're not more expensive. The 2,100 square foot house that I sold for $250,000 is now valued at $100,000 more in just 5 years because there's so much growth up there. But that $250,000 home for $280,000 down here, I bought a 3,800 square foot house. So you can get more. It's less price per square foot down here in Texas. So the markets, you got to know your markets. You got to understand your markets, but it's a good time to move to Texas, but everybody's moving to Texas. What is it? 2,000 or 8,000 a day, new people a day in the state of Texas.
Wow.
They're talking, I heard a guy say the other day, they expect Houston, was it Houston, Austin, or Houston, San Antonio? Can't remember, and Dallas, Fort Worth to become a big metroplex together, that they're going to be so big. There's going to be so many people coming here.
Oh my gosh.
And we don't know if they're coming from over the border or where they're coming from. Exiles from New York. I mean, and then the people in the states they're leaving are the states that have very liberal. This is real interesting. They have very liberal governments, and yet they have very high personal taxes.
California.
So like New York and California have personal income taxes, and they're taxing people out of their states, and they have very liberal views. They're trying to pull money out of other people so they can do these liberal programs to fund people who don't even pay into the system. It'll go bankrupt. That's why the state of California is bankrupt. Every time they have a little bit economic downturn, this whole state is in a panic. You don't see that here. Texas, I don't think, has ever been on the verge of bankruptcy. New York was back in the 80s. They were 70s. They had a big. New York City was so bad that they had to close down part of the government. But they said they'd keep the police and fire. Actually, the garbage stacked up in the streets because they didn't have any money. They had to close down the government. So, and I don't remember how we got here, but anyway, that's one of those questions again.
Okay. Well, I better get going before I ask some more
We all have
questions.
to get going. So you take care. And we'll see you guys next week, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.